Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's session. I am begging your indulgence just for another 2 to 3 minutes, please, to allow persons to join. I understand there's a lot of traffic. Some persons may be on their way home, so thank you in advance. And we will begin in another 3 minutes. Thank you.
Noted. Okay.
Thanks. Okay, so a pleasant good evening, everyone, again, and welcome to our webinar this evening on your safety and security, a top priority. I am pleased to know that so many of you were able to include this evening's session in your schedule, which really demonstrates to us the importance and priority that you place on your personal safety and security and that of your family, especially with the increasing levels of crime that seems to be taken over our beautiful country, Trinidad and Tobago. My name is Paula Marcel Irish, and I am the chair of the Education Committee at SECU. I'd like to take this opportunity to also welcome the other members of the Education Committee who have joined us today, members of the board, management, and staff. So I'm going out on a limb today to say that I believe that each person here today has either been personally impacted or affected by crime, or knows someone, be it a family member, a friend of a friend, or even someone in the community. In fact, it really saddens me to see and hear about all the crime that is taking place in our society. I'm not sure about you, but more often than not, I tend to feel embarrassed about the levels of crime and what is being reported. I could only imagine what our Caribbean neighbors and persons on the international front are saying and thinking about Trinidad and Tobago when they receive these daily reports of crime, especially through pictures and videos that go viral on social media. So in preparing for today's webinar, I decided to do a little research on the various types of crime, and I was actually surprised to learn that there are over 24 types. By then I stopped counting. There were too many, but I will simply name some of the more popular ones that tend to have a direct impact on our personal safety and security. And those include robbery, burglary, home invasion, violence, rape, assault, kidnapping, theft, motor vehicle theft, murder, and manslaughter. In fact, I'd like to share a personal story with you. Over 20 years ago, I was actually a victim of a motor vehicle theft right in front of my home in Diego Martin. At the time, my dad was doing some renovations, so we all had to park outside. I remember that night like yesterday. It was about 9 p.m. I was studying, so I pulled up in front of the house. I did see two men walking down the street at the distance, but to be honest, I paid it no mind because I just thought that, they lived in the community and they were on their way home. My personal belongings were on the back seat, handbag, laptop, books, you name it, it was in the back seat. So very unaware, I opened the door, proceeded to stretch to the back of the vehicle to get my things. And only when I turned around to exit the vehicle did I see the same two men, one of them pointing a gun at me saying, "Come out of the vehicle and don't make any noise." And the other, he was keeping watch. Well, my knees buckled. I fell on the ground. I ran for shelter behind a water barrel that was on the pavement. They took all my belongings and they drove off. Needless to say, I was in a mess for 1 month or more. And I wasn't coping at all at home. So I had to relocate to my uncle and my aunt's home in Arima because I was really fearful for my life. I thought that they would come looking for me because they had everything, my ID cards, everything. It was so bad that I remember if a pin dropped, I would scream out. And 20 years later, of course, as I reflect on that day, I realized that I took a lot of things for granted. I certainly wasn't aware. I didn't have the experience regarding, my personal safety and security as I have today. Had it been today, I would have certainly done things differently. So it is really from that perspective and many others that we have organized today's session, because I think as citizens, we could never be too aware or too careful of our personal safety and security and that of our families. I am always happy to receive additional information, additional knowledge, and education to heighten my awareness in this area. Before I introduce our two presenters today, I would just like to remind ourselves of a few house rules. So if you can ensure that your mic is muted, during the presentation, if any questions come to mind, you can note them down either in the question box on the Teams platform, or maybe in a notebook or on a piece of paper, and we will certainly try to answer all of them at the end of the session. Today's webinar would last for 1 hour, and it will be recorded and uploaded in the library section on SecU's website. So you will have access to it afterwards. So on to our session. We are fortunate to have two very experienced men and presenters for this important topic. We have Keith Samaru and Carlos Neptune. Let me first introduce you to Keith. Keith is one of our alternate board members and also a security advisor. He has over 25 years experience in the security field, in the financial, industrial, and oil and gas sectors. He is very well qualified, has a bachelor's degree in economics, and also possesses a number of certificates, diplomas, associate and bachelor's degrees in security administration and management and occupational safety and health. Keith is also a certified protection professional and has attended numerous seminars and conferences in the field of security both locally and internationally. Our other presenter is Carlos Neptune. Carlos is a very well-established security practitioner with over 30 years of expertise gained through education, experience, and other affiliations. Carlos was the former estate superintendent at Telecom Security Services Limited for over 20 years and has been the managing director of Fortress Security Services Limited in Trinidad and Castle Security Inc. in Guyana for the past 18 years. Carlos is also very well qualified and holds a number of certificates and associate and bachelor's degrees in security administration. Carlos is experienced in the areas of elite and tactical training, firearm retention, self-defense, elite executive protection, civil disobedience, rioting, and investigation. He has acquired the designations of Certified Protection Officer, Instructor, and Certified Protection Officer, and is a Certificate Protection Professional, which is considered the American Society for Industrial Security. Carlos is also one of the founders, and since 2019 has been the chair of the Trinidad and Tobago local chapter of the American Society for Industrial Security. He is also the current president of the Trinidad and Tobago Private Security Association and has a burning desire to ensure that there is a foundation of continuous growth and development in the private security industry in Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean. Ladies and gentlemen, members, if these men were any more qualified than this, then we would be in trouble. We are in very good hands this evening, so let me now invite them to share with us on a few things, which would include being aware of our surroundings and our personal safety and security tips while at home, while at work, and while on the road, how to keep small business enterprises secure, how to be safe in public, and what to do during a home invasion. Let us now listen attentively, let us engage them, and ask all the questions that we may have. Keith and Carlos, over to you. You will see me again at the question and answer session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paula. A pleasant good afternoon to all members and welcome to all persons on board. I am Carlos Neptune, and I was formally introduced by Paula. I will go right into it, and my partner Keith would join with his slides afterwards. So I am doing something on home invasion. So next slide, please. Right. So as we see, home invasion has increased in Trinidad and Tobago. It can happen to anyone, and the results can lead to physical and emotional hurt. We just heard Paula spoke about her experience. I will further elaborate in slide 2, where we will expand on this a little bit. But this experience is traumatizing, to say the least. Your home is your castle. It is therefore very important to create a safe and secure environment for you and your family. To have that comfort. You have worked hard for your home. Sorry, go back to the next slide. Let me just, right. You have worked hard for your home. It's your place of comfort. It's your castle. You may pay mortgage, rent. This is where you should be enjoying with your loved ones. This is your home. You should be comfortable. However, home invasion, again, can happen to anyone and could spoil this pleasure. Next slide, please. Right, understanding home invasion. Home invasion is an American term which can be defined as unlawfully breaking and entering into a building or home while the legal occupants are inside. In Trinidad and Tobago, we use the term home invasion. This is not in our law books. Therefore, the crimes are usually covered under the Larceny Act, such as burglary, etc. So in other words, when you are charged, no one in Trinidad and Tobago is charged with home invasion. There are other crimes associated with it that is in our books that they are charged with. For example, larceny. Probably if nobody is home, it could be larceny. Somebody jump over a fence, take up something. If they break into your home and so on, there are certain hours after from 5 in the evening to around, I think it's 8 in the morning, where burglary and so on is attested to. So home invasion can lead to serious hurt, such as rape, injury, and even death. Nonetheless, though, when these guys go into your home, the purpose is not to hurt you, but to steal from you. And in Trinidad and Tobago, a vehicle, what is an average vehicle cost? Between 200 to 400,000, I would say. So when you look at the cost of that and the cost of your items, it's just around $500,000 or more when they enter into one home they can go with. So we need to look at that. And that is why it is so attractive and becoming more and more popular, I would say. So next slide, please. A security mindset. What is the security mindset for this exercise? Oh, sorry. Right. Discuss with your family security plans, your home as it relates to home invasion. There is something from the IFPO we learned called the what if scenario. What if this were to happen? What will we do? Sit with your family and plan for a home invasion. In this regard, we will give you some tips here. But for example, there are things you should do if someone has already invaded your homes. That is things like remain calm, don't do things that make these guys nervous, which can lead to hurt and so on. So we will go into that a little more and some preventative measures you can take. So that's the mindset, you know. The mindset is to look at a plan here. Remove expensive items from the public view. For example, expensive TV boxes, computer boxes, empty bottles of Johnny Walker Blue, and things like that you put in your rubbish bin that everyone could see. And perpetrators can look at that, and that could be an inviting tool for your, you know, to attend to your home. So next slide, please. Layer of security. Yes, layer of security. So a lot of names and terms you may have heard bandied about, like making the target a little harder, removing the target, security in depth, which is also a military term. So when we talk about layers on security, Keith will also talk about some perimeter in his presentation. But some layers of security, we're looking at the first layer, which is your walls and your fence and so on. That's your first layer of security. And your gate. So that is one of the area of protection, your first layer. Your second layer is the end from the wall to your door. So the fence line, putting up a fence is very important. It is also, it serves as a psychological boundary between your home and the public road or your neighbor's home, etc. Someone will have to breach that wall to get into your home. So from your wall to your door, that's your first layer of security. And we will talk further about dogs and so on, things that you can do. So for this slide, we're just discussing the layers very briefly. And the third, of course, is your side of your home, you know, your strong room, etc., which we're going to talk about. Next slide, please. Right. So, outdoor lighting and landscaping. Why landscaping? Landscaping is very important. Keeping your surrounding clean, ensuring that there is no hiding place in and around your premises as much as practical or as much as possible. Adequate outdoor lighting. That helps to deter the criminals because criminals don't like to be seen. So those are some measures that you can look at in terms of preventing home invasion. Install motion activated lights in strategic areas, especially in hidden areas in the back of your home, etc. Motion activated lights is very important. Some of them even have a timer, some don't. So some of them you can change up the timer and so on. Maintain a well-trimmed bushes and trees near windows. Eliminate hiding spots. So near windows, you shouldn't have any trees and so on, like we see in the picture here. Persons can easily climb onto these trees and get onto your top of your building. Now there are different type of walls that you can install: high security, medium security, low security walls. But for the purpose of this exercise, we can't go that far. Next slide, please. Alarm systems and surveillance. Well, what we say is to install a reliable security system with alarm monitoring. Monitoring, you can have armed guard monitoring from private security companies or from the firm that is installing the alarm system for you. You can have what we call telephone monitoring. So beside monitoring the signals and so on, there's a whole procedure. Most of you may have had or have alarm systems in your home, but it is recommended so that in the event of an emergency, you can get some assistance, not only from the law enforcement officer side, but also from the private security side. It is recommended that you have a panic button in this regard. So if you are moving around your home and you observe some suspicious activity, you can use your panic button. Consider using surveillance cameras. This can aid in deterring criminals and aid in detections. You can also view this from external. For example, if you're not at home, via your telephone, you can look at your home and so on. I'm sure some people here have that. I myself have that type of system, and it's very common nowadays. In this regard, be mindful of where you have your DVR, so that if the bandits or criminal persons were to enter your home, they can destroy your DVR, which stores all your information. So you can consider cloud storage, so that even your DVR is destroyed, you can still have your information somewhere. Next slide. Right, building relationship with neighbors. Form a strong community network where neighbors look out for each other. In my community, we have two. Our streets where we live, we have a WhatsApp group, and we share information. In the entire community, there's another group, WhatsApp group, which we share, we inform, and so on, and there is a signal that we have. In other words, we have a little crime plan, and we will sound the horn if someone is in trouble. We have some military person living in our area too, who will also assist in responding and so on, to assist the law enforcement. But in other words, we have to look out for each other, and forming that type of network will certainly help. And the information is very important. establish a neighborhood watch program to promote safety and communication. We found the WhatsApp, and there are other apps that you can use. Some experts will, can refer to those apps. Nonetheless, the WhatsApp groups is working well for us, and also the horns in the event of an emergency. While you will share information with your neighbor, I want to caution you also not to share too much sensitive information because it can get in the hands of the wrong persons. That's just a caution there, but it is important to establish that neighborhood communication to promote safety. Next slide, please. Right, some safe habits. You lock all doors and windows even when you're at home. Practice until this becomes a habit. Practice this measure. When you're home, you're comfortable. Earlier on, I said your home is your castle. You work hard. This is a place to enjoy. This is a place to relax. I'm not in jail. All these burglar-proof dogs, all these measures. Yes, but it's good. It's for you, your safety and your family. So make it a habit. If you are in the backyard doing something, close the front door, etc. Have the dogs outside if you have dogs, and so on. So make this a practice. Create the illusion of occupancy. Why? Yeah, if by using timers for lights and radios when you're away. Leaving the radio on, little electricity, very cheap way of have the criminal guessing if you're home or not. So it's a good way. Some people have a timer on the radio so that it comes on and off, even the lights. If you can possibly get someone to trust it that could clear your mailbox, possibly recorded dog barking, sorry, on a timer. The clearing of the mailbox is very important because when your mailbox is full or overflowing, one, your information could get into the wrong hands, and two, it gives the impression that the persons are not at home. Don't put your name on your mailboxes. The reason for this is you don't want your name being out there and people looking for you can easily find you, and they can use your name. For example, Keith. Keith is on the door, and I'm looking. Oh, that's Keith. So I said, listen, the bandits could, try something by using his name as though they know him, and so on. All sort of tricks. So clearly eliminate your home numbers. One of the main purpose of this is if you have an emergency at home and you call law enforcement and you give them your number of your home, they can easily see your home number from a distance. So it is good to eliminate your home numbers, wherever and how, maybe reflective and so on. But in terms of your name, it is not advised that you put your name on your mailboxes. Next slide, please. Right, social media and online security. We love the internet and social media. Nonetheless, that is people's rights and so on. However, the social media has some risk, especially when you are traveling abroad. Do not take pictures when you are away, indicating where you are and how nice it is and you are enjoying your flights and so on. It could get into the wrong hands and even with identity theft. So that is not recommended. We see people sharing their food, their drink, if they go to the beach, everywhere. While it is your right, it poses a security risk for you and your family. So be mindful. Maybe when you off the trip and you are back home, you are free to, of course, share with your friends. The risk of oversharing, that is what I think I mentioned that already. oversharing in terms of even your neighbors, and as it relates to the social media, oversharing in a common sense way. For example, if you travel and you come back home, and with your neighbor, there are things you can share, but there are things you should not share. Next slide, please. Right, so develop a family emergency plan, including escape routes and designate meeting place. How to use emergency communication system, when to contact the authorities. I will go into the communication a little bit when we go into the strong room, but this is in your planning, emergency preparedness, with respect to home invasion. We're going to talk a little more, like I said, when we reach the strong room. But your escape routes, we must know exactly what we are doing. And again, I must mention the what if scenario. So you must know, if we escape, if we put to run away from here, where we're going to go and where we're going to meet, how we're going to communicate, etc. So the family must get together and discuss this. For the purpose of this exercise, we will not be able to go into all that, but the emergency contact system via the police, the law enforcement, and even your private security is very important. So if you have, I mentioned the panic button, also very important. Next slide. Right. The importance of personal safety over property. This can be a lot of discussion, but in terms of property looking nice and so on is one thing, but also your personal safety for you and your family is very important. So when you're designing your walls and so on, if you can get an expert to assist you in that regard. A tall wall, a fortress wall is not always the best way to go, because sometimes there's an argument on another side of that discussion where if something is happening inside, one cannot see from the outside. So, look at not just you, but your whether you are trained and so on to defend yourself, whether you have a licensed FUEC, you still have to consider the personal safety of your family and be very cautious so that in your thinking and so on, and in your planning, you consider this. For example, strategies for dealing with home invasion. You are a firearm user and somebody jumps your wall, be very cautious that person didn't jump the wall to collect a football, etc. So while we are very cautious, we also have to follow the law of the land, which doesn't give us that right to go shooting wildly as soon as somebody may jump or enter your wall. During the night, for example, if you are sleeping and you heard a noise outside, don't go out there to look and see what it is. Lots of persons got robbed that way. So if you have cameras, you can view from the outside, you can make a call, etc. So let's go on to the safe room. This is a room in your home, but let me just say, if criminal enter your home, one of the first place they look for is your bedroom. And your main bedroom is where persons will usually keep their jewelry, their expensive stuff, and so on. So a safe room is where if you can get there safely, and that room must be built with sturdy doors, for example, a steel door. And in that room, so, a criminal cannot just take some hammer or something or kick down that door. That must be a security door. And that door should protect you for perhaps at least 5 minutes or more. In this safe room, you should have also an escape route so that you could get out. And, in case there are other means of attack that is coming onto you there. You should have a telephone. There is an argument that you should have a landline phone or a cell phone. There are, the advantage and disadvantage of both. For example, the cell phone doesn't need to be wired. The criminal cannot cut the wire to the cell phone. However, you have to keep charging it. You have to make sure it has funds on it to call in the event of an emergency. But the purpose of that phone should be in a particular area in that safe room where you can call for help, where you could alert. In that room, you can also have the horn if needed to send a signal, and so on. So that safe room is very important if you can afford it. And the most important thing is that door, is that safety door, where as soon as you recognize a breach is coming, the family runs into that room and secure themselves with that steel door and make a call to the relevant authorities. Here you can call, well, of course, 911, etc. Next slide. Okay, so I have come to the end of my part, and I think I stayed within the time. Yeah, I think I stayed within the time. So I will now hand you over to Paula.
Yes, thank you so much, Carlos, for taking us through the home invasion part of it. I will ask, maybe we can take a few questions now pertaining to that particular home invasion. So does anyone on the call have questions regarding what Carlos shared? I mean, you did share some very good tips like remaining calm, which I think is a little probably challenging for a few of us, but still, as you said, we must create that mindset. I like what you said about the WhatsApp group in the community. I think quite a few communities now have WhatsApp group chats, but it is an idea for those who live in communities who have not yet established that. I particularly liked as well when you mentioned about not leaving expensive things outside. I know around Christmas time, when we get gifts, whether it's a TV or something expensive, we will just put the entire box out in the garbage. But what you said there is so true, where you could either probably maybe fold the box very small or conceal it in a black garbage bag. Again, that sharing of the vacation plan, so very true. I know quite a few colleagues, when they're traveling, they're in the airport, put your post, I'm in the airport, I'm going to wherever it is. And, I remember one time I was telling a colleague, I said, that is a security risk because it means people would know when you're not home and they can't go. So I was happy to hear you say that. In terms of the safe room, most of us would already have our homes, designed our homes in such a way that there isn't a steel door, but I think the important thing is to know that there's this particular place that we can all retreat to, where we can make a call to the police or even a neighbor quickly. And of course, the family emergency plan, that is also important. So thanks for sharing those tips. I haven't seen any questions as yet come. Would anyone like to, unmute themselves and ask a question, perhaps? I don't know if we have a shy bunch here today, but maybe while they are thinking about it, we can go right ahead and welcome Keith, who will also, oh, there is a hand. Hold on, Camille. Camille's hand is up. Yes, Camille, you can go ahead. I thought I saw a hand up. Okay. Judy Ann, you can unmute yourself and you can go ahead and ask your question. Okay, I'm not sure what is happening. Judy, are you able to speak? I guess not. Oh, yes, there she is. You can go ahead.
Okay, is 911 a number we use in Trinidad? Because I thought that it wasn't.
911 is yes, and there are some others, 555, and there is a new app from the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service that also works well, I understand. But 911, 999 in Trinidad and Tobago, 911 is fire. So probably
I think 911 is the emergency number in other places, not Trinidad. Our number, I think, is 999.
Correct. That's a typo there. We are 999. That is 911 is the US.
Yeah, and you know, the thing about it is with the US having it and always talking about it, we feel that it could be ours too.
That is true.
Yeah.
Okay, so that number is 999 for us to call for help. Yeah. Okay. If persons are having difficulty unmuting themselves, you can always put your questions in the chat as well. Okay, so thanks so much to Judy for asking that question and for us getting clarification that our number here in Trinidad and Tobago, should an emergency take place, is 999. Okay, so I'm not seeing any more questions or hands. So let us now go to Keith, who will speak to us about another type of safety and security. Keith, welcome and thank you.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having us. My name is Keith Samaru, and I will do my presentation now. I'll start off with residential security first. With respect to residential security, we talk about location of residence. Now, location of residence, it could be in a cul-de-sac, it could be on a main thoroughfare, or it could be in a gated community. The issue around that is wherever your residence is located, you, as the owner of the residence, should be in a position to determine what your risks are. I'll come to that in a little bit. Now, when I gated community, I'll give you an example because I like to talk a little war story now and then. There's a gated community in the area where I live. The gate that was constructed was heavier than the motor that moves the gate. So what happened is the motor went and they subsequently had to change the gate. That took some time, about 2 to 3 weeks exactly. And in that space of time, somebody lost their vehicle. So the location of your residence, yes, but my thinking is you have to be safe and secure in the areas that you so choose. Carlos spoke it, but I'll talk it again. Neighbors we speak of here. Now, neighbors in the vicinity and neighbors in and around. Most people in residential areas don't necessarily know who is living next to them. That may be a good or bad thing based on where you sit, but from my perspective is you should know who your neighbors are, not necessarily to be the goodly friend next door, but to ensure that you have a good working relationship, and even if something should happen, you could ask them to make a call for you. Or if they see something going wrong, they could do the same thing for you as well. Risk assessment. A risk assessment based on your residence is, from where I said, determined by you. The reason why I say that is you are the owner of the residence. You should know your weak points better than anybody else. So my view on risk assessments is you do the assessment. When you do the assessment, you will determine what level of security you should go to. In addition to which, if you so desire and you have necessary cash, you could ask experts to come in to give you a risk assessment as a second point of view. They determine the gaps that may be there and how to mitigate the gaps in terms of putting controls in place. So your location of residence, your neighbors next door, and then you do a risk assessment to determine what needs to be put in place. Some of the things I mentioned here, Carlos spoke to some of them already, so I won't go into too much detail. Alarm systems. Now, alarm systems are only as good as the monitoring and response that comes with it. This is my point of view here, right? Alarm systems comprises several things. One is the contacts, as the little knob you see over doors and over windows. And once that is broken, the alarm triggers. PIR, better known as passive infrared. Those are little things you see in the corners of a house, a little light strobing all the time. That strobe picks up movement. Then there are vibration sensors. These vibration sensors that they will install will be installed in windows in particular, so that anybody tries to break or tamper with your burglar proof or break the glass itself, triggers the alarm, and the alarm goes off. And once you have a good monitoring response company, they will respond. No, your alarm system is only as good as you testing it. So you could have the best alarm system in the world, the best monitoring and response company in Trinidad and Tobago, but you don't test the alarm system to see whether they will really respond or whether they will really monitor and alert you that something is wrong. So you need to test the alarm systems from time to time. My advice is once a month. Now the alarm systems come with a directory. The directory tells you which zone is broken, and the zones normally run from 1 to whatever number of zones that they would have installed in your house. That directory is also kept by the monitoring and response company, and that monitoring and response company will know that zone 1 is broken, which might be a main door, and how to respond and what manner to respond. Because before they do the monitoring response, as the security company, they should come into your space and do analysis to understand how your house is made up, how your fence system operates, and how easy it is to get in and out. Perimeter fence, with respect to your residence. A perimeter fence is only as good as you want it to be. I know everybody in the old days wanted a white picket fence. A white picket fence is normally about 2 to 3 feet tall, if my information is correct. At 2 to 3 feet tall, a kid could walk over that and come into your space. Granted, some of the perimeter fences might be not as pretty as you want them to be, but in this day and this time, we need to protect ourselves and our property. Not necessarily from the burglars alone, but from other things that may go wrong. Some of the fences go to the extreme. I'm sure you would have seen them. They're some of them over 8 to 10 feet tall. And then normally would have on top of them concertina wire, that's razor wire locally called. Now, that depends on the location of your residence. If your residence is located in an area that is crime-ridden, that things always happen in that space, you need to protect yourself, and if that's where you need to go, you need to do so. The other thing in terms of residential security is security lights. Now, security lights here doesn't mean you're going to price spot, you buy a pack of bulbs that is 100 watt, and they screw them into some device or some socket on your outside of your wall, and that's what is deemed to be security lights. No, security lights are much more detailed than that. A level you could go to is based on your pocket one and area in which your residence is located. There are some very expensive lights, LEDs, and they have some that will do just fine, that Carlo made mention of a while ago in terms of alerting you when somebody should traverse that space. The other thing I'll talk to is door locks. Now we have a problem trying to figure out buying the cheapest kind of door lock. Once the door is locked, the door is locked. However, some of these door locks, I wouldn't call the brand names. If you talk too loudly, the door could open to tell you how cheap they are. So my advice to you is all the entrance point doors, ensure you have proper security type door locks. That will ensure that you are safe in your area and in your space. Next slide, please. Safe room. Carlos made mention of the safe room, and he went into some detail about it. Now, the safe room, Carlos said, is only as good as the strength of the door. And of course, he also mentioned that there must be an evacuation plan out of that room so something much more go awry. That safe room, as Carlos made mention of, should have your phones in place, as well as emergency numbers to call. And my view on this is you need to practice to use that space, that safe room in particular, not necessarily from the point of view of a home invasion, but remember that's a means of escape. And if you have burglar bars in that room, the burglar bar should have a padlock on the inside that can be open a window to get out of the room. And in most instances, if the room is located on a floor above, there are some ladders that they would say that you could literally roll out from inside of the room to get out of the house. A means of escape is what I'm just speaking about here, to ensure that you get out of that place safely. If it's too high up, you need an emergency exit in terms of an emergency use in terms of the ladder that I just spoke of. Those come in, it comes rolled up, it comes with hooks, and just put them onto the windowsill and then roll them out outside so you could escape from whatever it might be that is facing you. Dog. Now a dog is a dog is a dog. Some people want to have the extreme. You have the pit bulls, you have the Alsatians, you have the Rottweilers, you name them. I have 2 Potterhounds. Reason being, they make the most amount of noise. I want to hear noise before someone comes into my space. I know the tone in terms of how my dogs bark, I can tell you, yes, it's somebody. No, it's not not somebody in particular, but something in the road that they may have observed. So a dog, yes, is a nice way of deterring a would-be perpetrator. But my view on a dog is it's up to you and where you want to go with the dog. I have 2 Porthounds and they do just fine. The dogs, in terms of the higher end dogs, you have to remember that there's legislation in place should something go amiss and that dog escapes and cause someone some harm on in your neighborhood or on your street. Electronic gates. I spoke to one before in terms of the weight of the electronic gate and the motor. The electronic gates, from my perspective, the gate should be of a fair weight that the motor could carry. The problem with electronic gates, I'm sure all of you who have it, is that the electronic gate is only as good as the motor, and most of the time, if not all, they open very slowly. They open very slowly for more than one reason. One is they understand how a human being operates. Some people try to drive the car through and the gate is just about to open and the gate could come back in onto the car. Some people don't even have the zones to brake so the gate could stop. So electronic gates, when you put it in one place, you have to ensure those things are in motion as well, right? Plants and shrubbery. Carlos talked to some of them, but you could use plants and shrubbery in another sense of the word. In the weak areas that you see in your garden space, you put the plants like bougainvilleas, because bougainvilleas normally come with a lot of thorns on them. That can act as a deterrent for somebody trying to get over your fence from that perspective. On the other side of plants and shrubbery is our wife who loves plants. And of course, plants grow. When plants grow, they block your CCTV systems, they block your view, and they create an environment for somebody who is of ill intent to come into your space and do some harm. So that is my view on plants and shrubbery. The other thing is a Sesame Street piece I use here. One of these things doesn't belong here. So you're normally on your way home, you know, your dog, or whatever type of dog you decide to go with, normally comes to the front gate and wags his tail because most dogs tend to know the vehicle and the sound of the engine and that kind of good stuff. But today the dog didn't show. My advice is something's wrong here, something is amiss. You don't go into that space. You go and you get some other folks to come in there with you, or you go to the nearest police station and make a report that something isn't right at my home. Sorry, I need some security presence to ensure that everything is okay in that space. So that is my thinking in terms of one of these things doesn't belong here, something is a little bit different. Do not enter your residence. Yeah. Next slide, please. I want to talk to ATMs and in terms of behaviors, right? The ATMs, I say location here. Location means you're going to an ATM and the ATM must be located in a safe space, well lit, with a lot of people traffic and vehicle traffic. The reason I'm saying that is because some ATMs are located in some very strange places. And people tend to use them, and of course, the perpetrators of crime lurk in those areas for folks coming in to use those ATMs, right? I'll give you an example. I won't call the name of the bank, but there's an ATM located in Cuep at the junction between the bus route and the main road. And Cuep at the junction, and Cuep Junction in particular is a beehive of activity. And from time to time, you hear about this doubles vendor got shot and that doubles vendor got shot and somebody else was attacked and whatever else. So location, respect to ATM, that will be your saving grace. In another instance, and I won't call the bank's name, in Konopia in particular, the gentleman went in to use the ATM and realized something wasn't right with the lighting system. So he decided to check the lighting system above the keypad. I realized it was interfered with, and when he pulled it on, there were 2 cell phones in there. One was recording video and the other one was taking pictures of you using your PIN. So that I'm saying to you, location with respect to ATMs. The other thing, check for tampering. I got this just been mentioned to you of. You walk in and you find something that's looking like an ATM, move away from there and go to some other ATM. PIN numbers, shielded PIN numbers, that goes without saying. Shielded PIN numbers, the reason why I'm saying that is some ATMs are designed for 1 customer only. Some ATMs are designed to take 4, but in Trinidad and Tobago, it's based on experience. You don't have ATM ethics, I would call it, or etiquette. where we see an ATM is very hot out there. We know it's going to be cold, so the ATM could house 4 people or 2 people or 1 person and it's crowded. That's the reason why I'm saying shield your PIN numbers. The other thing you're going to take is the amount of cash you're going in for. You put in your PIN, and you're going to access, let's say, $2,000 in cash. The machine does what it has to. You retrieve your PIN, you receive your receipt and the cash. Now the cash is $2,000 what I plugged in for initially. Why stand there and check it? The machine will give you $3,000. It gives you less, you know what's the next option. You take whatever you get and you report it to the bank by your phone. Hey, I went to this ATM and so time and so date. This is my receipt, this is the number. This is the transaction, I received $1,000. You don't need to stand up in there and check the $2,000 that people might be looking at you and saying, hey, this man just took $2,000 out. We could probably take him for that, he's good for that. So I'm saying to you, the amount of cash you're going for is the amount of cash you're going to receive. If you receive less, you have the fallback position of dealing with it through the banking system via a telephone call also. Next slide, please. Malls and plaza. So this is refers to shopping in particular, right? And all the information we're giving you about Carlos and myself is from the point of view of ensuring that you are secure and safe. Now, Trinidad and Tobago, I always say this when I talk to people, are beautiful islands. We, in terms of the perpetrators, make it into what it is. But the perpetrators are just a percentage, a very small percentage of the total population. But they create havoc and they create malice and they create bad will and they create an environment that Trinidad and Tobago seems to be a Gaza, so to speak. So, location of the mall or plaza, that goes without saying. You're going to go to one where it's located in a place that you could get in and get out very, very quickly without any issues. You're going to have to do one thing, of course. You're going to shop, or you're going to buy something to eat, or you're going to meet somebody to have coffee, or whatever it might be. Parking. So you're going to park in the car park. 2 black minivans, totally tinted, and there's a space for a car to fit. My advice is, yes, there's a space for that car to fit. It's very close to the mall, or the plaza you want to enter into, but you don't go and park there. The reason being, you don't know what these 2 vehicles there, you don't know what they're about, whether they're going to ambush you when you're coming back in, take your belongings, take your vehicle, take whatever you have in the car. Do not park there. Park a little lower down. It's good for your heart. I get some cardio to walk a little further up the road to the mall, but in a safe place. Next thing, leaving items in the vehicle in plain view. What I mean by this is some folks like to leave everything on the seat. You leave everything on the seat, a bandit, a perpetrator passes by and you observe a handbag, a laptop bag, a bag with some items in it. He is going to break into your car to get into that space to retrieve those items, whatever it might be. Most of the time, there are valuable items in there, and the most valuable of all might be documents you may have in there, or your driver's permit, your passport, for example. So do not leave items in the vehicle in plain view of perpetrators. That is an incentive to saying, here I am, come and take it out of the vehicle, let me go with it. Returning to your vehicle. Most times when you do shopping in the mall, you're coming back with a lot of bags in your hand. So when you return to your vehicle, make sure you have your key out to open the car, whether it is a remote control, a remote device on your car, or it's key. You ensure you have your key in your hand, you have enough parcels that you can literally maneuver yourself to get to your vehicle. And you get to your vehicle in a safe place. If you have any issues, you could probably notify the security officers in the mall. I don't know how amenable they are. Most times they are to assist you to go to your vehicle because of your constraint. Next thing I'm going to talk to whilst doing shopping is to follow your credit card. That goes without saying. If you don't follow your credit card, bad things could go. I know some folks whose credit card was tampered with, and $15,000 after, they're still trying to recoup. Debit cards, and this is debit card with tap access. Somebody loses your debit, your debit card and it's lost, and it's a tap access type card. They could take that card and that's literally tap all over the place for a day or so and access cash and access items that they would purchase with the card. So if you have any of those cards, ensure that once it's lost, you make the call to the necessary bank to ensure that they are informed and they stop all activity on that card. Next slide, please. Driving. Whilst driving, it's obvious you observe the laws of the land, right? And in addition to which, we're talking to in particular, use of the mobile phones, the speed limit, inspection certification, we're talking to you, and driving under the influence of alcohol. Mobile phones, I see most folks text whilst driving. Texting and driving, your concentration is only one way, on your text and the response to text. It's against the law, granted, but it's also unsafe for you to do because you're not aware of your surroundings and bad things could go on. The speed limit, in excess of it, accidents happen, you get injured, your children in the car may be injured, and you're in a strange place when it comes to that. Inspection goes without saying, that's the law of the land, you have to get it inspected every 2 years in most instances. Driving under the influence. So driving under the influence, the driving under the influence limit is 3.5 micrograms, meaning at least 2 beers, and above that, you will be tested, and you could be found positive, and then you know what happens after that. In police station, you might spend a weekend because they normally like to do DUI testing on a weekend, on a Friday, on a long weekend in particular. So you spend some time with some of the boys inside until such time that the court decides to handle your matter. Stopping at intersections, traffic lights, the windows should be up. Of course, nothing of value on the streets, and be aware of your surroundings, meaning everybody on the major traffic intersections, at the lights, somebody wants to clean your windscreen, somebody has something to sell, somebody selling nuts, somebody selling scythe and whatever else they might have, sweet peppers and pimentos. Yeah, we understand that things are on the outside and they're trying to make an honest dollar, but not everybody's up to that. They observe your window is down, they see a handbag and it looks like it has something of value. They're going to snatch it, they're going to run, and you can't get out from that car fast enough to find them. Lane selection, that comes back to the point that I was talking of here. Lane selection, highway, 3-lane highway or 2-lane highway. Driving rule in Trinidad and Tobago, just stay on the left except when overtaking. That's a very good rule from my perspective as a security practitioner, because the left lane has another lane that you could use in the event of a situation playing itself out, which is the shoulder. Yes, and the extreme right, you're boxed in because the person on the left lane they have you in that space. The 3-lane, in the middle lane, you're boxed in both ways, the left lane and the right lane. So the left lane, in terms of lane selection, is the right lane. And according to law, we're supposed to be, in the event of a situation, security related, playing itself out, you have room to maneuver and get out. Information management in terms of driving, information comes to you from all angles. Ensure you manage that information well so you come with the right choice to make in a situation from a security perspective. I'll give another example. I read recently, probably about a month ago, a young lady with a 10-year-old son in the car. She went to school to drop something off. She left the son in the car with the engine on. When she came out, she saw the car on its merry way up the street with the son in the car. She got the son back because most times if you have a professional bandit is different from somebody who is seeing an opportunity and running with it. A professional bandit, he came for the car. He didn't come to kidnap anybody. So you're going to put that child or children on the side of the street and will take your car. A bandit who doesn't know what to do will go with everything and everyone. And then your situation is critical. So professional bandits, in inverted commas, they're the better ones. I'm not saying that that's where we want to go. Very better ones in terms of coming into your space. Like a home invasion, as Carlos spoke to, they're coming to take whatever you have, give them whatever you have. Because material things could be bought, your life, your limb, your children, that can be bought. Those professional bandits come for a specific thing. The unprofessional ones will do you all kinds of harm, unimaginable, and some of them, when they have nothing else to do, and based on the instruction they would have gotten from, whatever, shouldn't go down that road. The instruction they would have gotten is, make sure you leave some mark of violence on these people, whatever it might be. And a mark of violence usually bloodletting in some form or the other. If I'm not mistaken, I think I've come to the end of my piece. I don't want to go into all the details because in the interest of time, we want to have some questions coming from you. The floor, is that the last slide? Yes, it is. Paula, I'll hand it back over to you. Yeah.
Thank you so very much, Keith, for taking us through that part of it. A lot of important information. I mean, I really like the tips that you shared in terms of if we are in traffic, if we are at the ATM, if we are at the mall, things that maybe some of us may know, but the reminders are always very good. I know we are beyond the 7 p.m., but the information is so interesting, and some questions came in actually, Keith.
Yes.
So I would like to beg your indulgence to just go through the questions. And if there are any more questions, then we can have them before we wrap up, okay? One of the questions that came in says that some communities are using air horns as a warning system that
Yes.
something is wrong in the area. Do you know if there are any laws against this, whether from the EMA or otherwise?
No legislation in place with
No
respect.
legislation.
You can use them wherever, because if you observe on some sporting
Mhm.
events, they use air horns to replace the guns that they normally use to
Yeah.
trigger etc. So air horns, you have a problem now, they could purchase them anyway. And that is part of the signaling that Carlos spoke to. A recent video I saw in a place, I wouldn't call it, I was in a state,
Mhm.
somebody who was given that charge in terms of neighborhood watch to observe the CCTV system, saw a strange car in the space, triggered the air horn, and the air horn started to trigger from house to house, and that person just put in reverse gear
And left.
So
It works then.
no legislation in place with respect to that. You could buy them and use them.
Right, okay. But if someone has never tried or never used the air horn, can they assume that it will be full volume when they use it?
Right, now there are directions on the air horn itself. I mean,
Mhm.
premise that you're purchasing it from, sorry, you could ask them to show you.
To do a demonstration.
Let them try it, because you don't want to leave there and it's not operational and a situation should play itself out. Better to be lose a few out of the air horn, but you
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you. There was also a suggestion that we can enable the speed dial feature on our smartphones if we wanted to get help quickly. I found that was good. There's a question about the ladders that you mentioned. Where can we purchase those ladders?
Right. So a little bit safety now, because we
Mhm.
care about security and safety, right? Now,
Yeah.
safety ladders could be purchased from many of the better safety stores around. Most of the safety stores I'm speaking to be, well, from where I'm from the oil and gas business. In terms of emergency preparedness, that safety ladder comes in a roller, can literally roll out, clamp onto you and roll out straight down to the ground. So you need to know how high it is and how long you need to
Yeah.
ride in terms of the ladder. But safety stores, oil and gas related safety stores, that is the place you want to go. How I know that is because we had experts in country, in the place I used to. That was part of the protocol in terms of emergency preparedness, that one of the means of escape should be a window, burglar bars with a lock, and could open, could get out through using ladders based on the height of the house. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. We do have someone with her hand up who would like to ask a question. Let me see who that is. Hold on. Oh, Avian.
Hi.
Yes, Avian.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm not seeing the chat function. Sorry to unmute.
That's fine. You
I
can
have,
ask your question.
I have two questions.
Mhm.
One, I wanted your thoughts on a dash cam, especially with car theft being as high as it is. So I was curious on, whether there are any restrictions on the dash cam, and your thoughts on the use of a dash cam. And two, I can't even remember where the pepper spray legislation landed in terms of some barrier for a woman to use in the interim, because I feel as if we're still in the same scenario as we were when those two young girls really lost their lives tragically and they had nothing, right? No pepper spray, nothing. So I was wondering where we are with that.
Now, the information I have is, getting politics aside, is that with respect to the pepper spray, that is that we're going through the process of getting people or companies or businesses to be registered to sell the item. That is where they are right now. It's not on the marketplace yet to be sold. If you're found with it, it's still an illegal item to be had until the government decides these are the people going to sell it and there's the protocol to follow, and then you could purchase it. So that's where it's at right now. That businesses are asked to come in to get a license to do so, to sell. And then when they reach to that, then they will tell the public, hey, you need to have this paperwork in place to go purchase one. With respect to the dash cam, now the information on the dash cam is on the dash, or some of the rearview mirrors have the dash cam in it or on it. The problem is the information is on the dash cam, and if somebody comes to steal the car, remember, they would go with it. The information that would be present in the dash cam. Some of the dash cams would have that the information could be fed back to your phone. That is the more expensive end. If you want to go that route, yes, you can go that route and information is stored there. But most time the dash cam is for accidents. They say, well, Keith hit Carlos from behind and that kind of good stuff. But in terms of security, no. In terms of security, from the other perspective, yes, once you have the cash to buy the type of equipment that could send information to another source. With respect to the speed dial on the phones you made mention of, Paula, the persons who will use the phones must ensure they plug in the numbers that Carlos spoke of. That's the 999, that's the police, the 555, 800 tips, right? You could get information to go to them as well, right? But the critical one is 999. And the 811 number that we haven't shown, that's not the 911 number. 811 is really for emergencies, ambulance services wise.
Yeah.
So critical is 555 999. And of course, you should know your nearest police station area phone number. If not by now, do so please. I'll log it on the order. Answer their phones and answer their phones promptly. Granted, I won't go down the road. You know the response time will be in some of the instances, right? I'm not able to talk politics, so I won't get that. Carlos, you want to say anything?
No, that is right. I wanted to say that the dash cam are also it's not illegal, and with respect to the car horns, it's good. Air horn, sorry, the air horn is good. The only thing is you have to keep it out of the hands of children in terms of playing with it, and because it's very loud and false triggering it off. Yeah, and if there are ill person in the area and so on, you wouldn't want it to be a nuisance. It should be only from emergency purposes. So there should be some house rules in that regard.
Okay, thank you. Actually, while you were presenting, I did go on the TTPS website and I saw some numbers, including the 911. They do have it for emergency. So 911 is emergency, 999 is the police, right. 990 is the fire, and 811 is the ambulance. Yeah. So let me just say it again for the benefit of those on the call. 911 is emergency, 999 police, 990 fire, and 811 ambulance. And Keith also mentioned a 555. Yeah.
All right. So you need to also ensure that you know your number for your police.
Yes.
Your jurisdiction.
Maybe we should save it in our phones as well as find out the nearest police station in our communities and save those numbers in our phones as well. There's another question for persons without electronic gates. When we are taking out vehicles, should we switch off the vehicle to get out of the car and close the gate? What do you recommend? I recently saw a video with a gentleman who came out, he left his car running, etc. But let me hear from the experts.
I'll speak and then Carlos will speak because he may have a different view. My view is
okay.
My view is to turn your vehicle off to open your gate. Yeah? Or your wife, your spouse, your mother, your brother, somebody at home and not expecting you. They were rather than texting and calling Tom, Dick, or Harry. Hey, I'm 2 minutes around. Kindly open the gate for me, please. Now, this is based on location of your residence, as I've been mentioned here. Your location. In a high-risk area, you know what to do. Turn your car when you're going to open the gate. And ensure that if not, somebody could open the gate so you can get in the airspace quickly. The kill factor is how long it takes to open. Electronic gates, most of you will be aware, it takes almost forever to open. And again, it's designed that way for more than one reason. Safety, in terms of that, will be the priority. Yeah,
I agree. I will just add to that pause a little bit and observe your surroundings, up the street, down the street, all around, to ensure that there are no strange persons lurking or close by. So once you show it is safe, then you can engage. Else you just drive back in or drive around or drive out. Any options you have there.
Yes.
The other part of safety that was being mentioned was public safety. Now, this topic was not supposed to be addressed today, but we could do that another time. Public safety really means the other side of it. Emergency preparedness, hurricanes, tsunamis, cyclones, and stuff.
Yeah.
So from the safety perspective, we spoke is from a security-related perspective to ensure that you are safe and secure.
Yeah. And I'd just like to add that for those of us who have elderly parents or relatives at home, I know that, you know, they are oftentimes seen as a target, either coming from the bank, and we have heard a lot of stories about that. So it's really good that we can even heighten their awareness too, as much as possible, or throw an extra eye out to try to see how best we can support them. So before we wrap up, is there anyone with a burning question? You can either raise your hand, come off mute, or put it in the chat box. I know we are at 7:17, but I thought that the information is so useful that we would like to have, you know, like these two gentlemen answer one last question, if at all, before we wrap up. If there are no questions, then I will just proceed to wrap up and to say, Keith and Carlos, thank you so very much again for, you know, sharing your evening with us, sharing your time, your knowledge, really making us more aware, giving us some extra tips or reminders. So thank you very much for your time. For those of you who would like to listen to the session again, yes, it has been recorded, and the recording will be uploaded in the library section of the website. You should also, in fact, you would also receive a thank you note, and the link for that recording would also be included. We do have a few more webinars coming up, and we would like to invite you to participate in them again. There is one on the 14th. And that one is entitled, Why Do We Need the Family Indemnity Plan? And I hope that everyone on the call, if you don't already have the plan, then you need to register to attend that webinar, because having a family indemnity plan is very, very important. Registration is currently opened, so do look out for it. And I can also include it in the thank you email that you are going to receive for having attended today's session. There's also another webinar that we have planned for August, and that one is planning for retirement. Yeah, so please look out for future emails from us and make sure you register for them. Make sure you engage and you participate in the sessions that we are putting on for you. So we have now come to the end of this evening's webinar. I would like to thank the two gentlemen again, Keith and Carlos. I would like to thank the entire team, Darvel, who was with us, you know, supporting us with all the technicalities. I'd also like to thank Kelly, who is always ever present to support us on these webinars, and you, our members, for joining. We hope that you did find the information valuable, and just enjoy your dinner, have a restful night until we meet again. So thank you very much for sharing your time with us today. Bye, everyone. Okay.